I'm seeing that we weren't a fan of the intro song. I thought it was fitting, given it doesn't appear that this episode's gonna be good. And when I mean good, it's just not good. But we haven't watched it yet. Maybe there's a chance that I like the episode and all that. We're not gonna talk about leaks. We're not doing it. Not happening. But I thought it was a fitting song given this could be the breakup of House of the Dragon and the Grease Goblins. I didn't think I'd have to say that, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Well, we don't know yet. But yeah. Also, little change of plans. We are going to do the episode 8 stream on my channel tonight. I know I said in pretty much every video at the end of them that it would be on Ricky's channel, but he decided to do it on mine. Yeah, so we'll be doing that tonight with the cast that we had last week. Also, check out Ricky's stream. He's going to be interviewing one of the actors Monday, so that should be pretty cool. But yeah. By the way, that song is used in a Rhaenyra edit. I did see that. I always thought of that song as like Maegor and Visenya, even though it's not like a breakup. It's kind of like, they thought their line was going to win. I don't know. Is the Alicent and Rhaenyra kiss real or fake? I don't know. I would lean towards fake, but who knows? I'm nervous, but I'm crossing my fingers that my expectations are blown through and it's great, but I know I need to live in reality. Yeah, Violet, I'm trying to go into it as open-minded as possible, but given some of the information I know about the episode, I just don't know how the concepts that I've heard they're doing in the episode are going to lead to a good episode. I've thought about this for a long time, but like, for instance, Ricky has already said to me, I think he said this more or less publicly, that this is a pretty bad episode in terms of like season 7, season 8 quality. So yeah, we'll see. So is she going to take King's Landing? No Battle of the Gullet? I definitely know no Battle of the Gullet. I don't think we're going to see King's Landing being taken either. It seems a little too preemptive, and I feel like if they were taking King's Landing in this season, it would have kind of come out already. Ricky has seen the episode already. The season has been so slow. Yeah, and I'm going to talk about that, Jesse, when we get out of the episode, because what this episode needs to do, there's a lot of things that it needs to do. One, it needs to somehow conclude the Daemon arc, because as of right now, the Daemon arc I liked it, right? It is my favorite plot line. But there hasn't been any conclusion to it. There's been no payoff. There's been no character growth of Daemon throughout the season. So when you have all these things and you spent about, that's one of the 3 major plot lines, it needs to have a fulfilling conclusion where Daemon is growing as a person based off his experiences. So we'll see how that kind of wraps up. We need to see really the Dragon Seed plot starting to go into fruition, the preparation to the Battle of the Gullet and some of the battles into the next episode. So there's a lot that has to happen on this episode, and knowing some of the things they're going to do, I won't say anything, but it'll be interesting to see how they tie all that together. And also, everybody likes different things, so maybe some people will like it, some people won't like it, but I already know from some of the information I've told, it's going to be controversial, very controversial. I'd say even more controversial than Blood and Cheese, so we'll see. I know I will like some scenes and I won't like others, like every episode since the beginning. Yeah, Ginger, that's kind of how I felt like every episode has been outside of like episode 2 and maybe 4 and 6, maybe. So 3 of the 7 episodes we've gotten, I haven't had much problems with. From what everyone is saying, it doesn't look good. Yeah, it's not looking great. Most of the leaks that came out didn't seem to be good. Yeah, I'm tired of Daemon. Ned Stark was gone so fast, and Dee is just hanging out. Yeah, I mean, Daemon just hasn't done much this season. Like, if you think about it, if you took Daemon out of the story, what changes in season 2? Like, outside of, like, the first episode or 2, right? Like, after Rhaenyra and Daemon's breakup, what happens with Daemon, right? The Riverland plot, he doesn't really do much. Like, he kind of sets the Blackwoods against the Brackens, which was already happening. He isn't the person that rallies them together. That goes to Oscar Tully. So what has Daemon done in this season so far that has made him part of it, right? And the main thing so far that's kept him up is it's his character work. We're going through and we're looking at how this character can change. So for that character arc to have any relevance in this season, looking back on it, has to have a fulfilling ending. And if it doesn't, we're going to sit back and go, we wasted a whole season with Daemon for what? So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. Will Sheepstealer be claimed this episode? It really seems like they're heading that direction. It was been foreshadowed for a number of episodes now, Soup Lord. So I definitely think we'll at least see some stuff with Sheepstealer. Will Sheepstealer be claimed? Who knows? Maybe they'll set that up for season 3. Or I don't even know, because like at this point you've already set it up for multiple episodes. So I guess you would just continue that setup. I don't know. When Jace meets with the Freys, he says the Malisers are mobilizing and they need to be checked, yet the Malisers join Daemon. Are they greens or blacks? It's been very unclear right now in the story, Jesse. And I think that's kind of the whole case of the Riverlands in general, right? It's like we didn't really know of all of the different houses at this like meeting with Daemon. Like they didn't really bring that up, so we'll see. We won't have to wait 2 years for next season. We probably will, Gryffindor. We will get Dunk and Egg next year, so it's not like we're going to have no Song of Ice and Fire content at all. But, yeah, it'll probably be at least 2 years again. Will Rhaenyra take the throne? Are we ending this one on the... I don't think we're going to get either one of those, Soup Lord. I don't think either one of those is happening in this episode. We've seen no footage or no leaks that have indicated anything in terms of King's Landing. Like, for instance, right, a lot of stuff comes out before the season, so like you kind of know somewhat some of the things happening, and we've gotten nothing on King's Landing, so don't think that's going to happen in this episode. And then Battle of the Gullet definitely is not going to happen in this episode. If it was, there would be much more marketing around it, right? You know how they were marketing Battle of Rook's Rest, they were showing us teaser shots and that. Didn't see any of that, so no Battle of the Gullet. I agree, Stannis Baratheon is the GOAT. Even if Daemon's story is concluded in a good way, still... See, Ghost, the way I look at it is that for Daemon to be a good character in this season, they have to finish his character arc. Like, it has to be a forward momentum of his character that leads into season 3, him being in a different position and it making sense, right? And so one of the things we've kind of talked about all season is all of this development is great for Daemon, but if they don't finish it off, it doesn't mean anything, right? So... we'll have to see where that goes. It's similar to, like, think about Viserys, right? They did a lot of build-up of Viserys' character, but think about if we just don't get any of Viserys' kind of payoff in episode 8. It wouldn't feel like that was that much of an impactful character. So, I don't know. He didn't do much plot-wise. It must have been a character study. Yeah, it was a whole character study. And so we have to see the conclusion of the character study. That's kind of where we're at. Like, it's very similar to like Theon in book 2 or in season 2, where it's kind of exploring the character of Theon and his loyalties and all this stuff. And you kind of have that payoff where he makes kind of the mistakes and he ends up getting captured, of course. So it's kind of like that, where Theon had a very compelling end to his arc in season 2, for instance. We have to see that with Daemon. So that's what we're going to see, hopefully. I hope they don't screw up Dunk and Egg. DG, I don't know how they could screw up Dunk and Egg. It's by far, out of all the stories in House of the Dragon, the Blackfire Rebellions, it's the easiest one to put to screen. There's no dragons, so you don't have a bunch of CGI stuff in that and all those issues. You don't have, not a script written for you, more or less. Like, you have all the dialogue right there for Dunk and Egg, so Dunk and Egg should be pretty easy on them. I think you just got to fill in some gaps if you want to expand the show and stuff like that, but we'll see. If we gotta wait for another season for her to claim Sheepstealer, I'm done with her arc. Should have had Nettles. Yeah, I think it will be interesting, right? Like, what was the Rhaena arc about in this season? It'll feel like almost another wasted arc where we didn't really go anywhere. Like, look, think about last episode. The only shot we see of her is seeing these skeletons once again of the I think it's goats, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that, or sheep or something like that. But we see those bones. Well, we already saw that in, I believe, episode 6 or 5. So we didn't need to see that again, right? That was an unnecessary shot. All it told to us, the viewer, was, okay, she's not going with Rhaenyra and Daemon's kids. She's going out for a dragon quest. We kind of already knew that was going to happen. It didn't serve that much of a purpose, right? It should have probably kept going a little bit more, but we'll see. If they screw up Dunk and Egg, I'll just quit watching every week. Yeah, fair. Don't watch something you don't like. Are we going to get a Laris foot scene, though? I hope not. I just don't like that Daemon hasn't really been making his own decisions. Like, even a kid has to get the Riverlands on his side. Daemon is not a passive person, so seeing him be one is out of character. I agree about it. I think his handling in episode 7, which I think is so weird. Nobody, like, even, like, the popular, like, audience, whatever, the popular YouTubers, nobody seemed to talk about Daemon's arc wasn't very good in episode 7. I had a lot of issues with episode 7, but one of the main ones was Daemon in that episode. It completely took away any urgency to the character of Daemon. It completely screwed up where I thought the development of the character was going. And so that's why I think episode 8 has a ton of pressure on it to somehow conclude the character of Daemon in a very good way or fascinating way that leaves you excited for the next season for this new person that is Daemon. We'll have to see what they do with that, but yeah. Will Broom meet with Daemon? It's possible, Superlord. I don't know at this point. You know who had an arc? Noah. You're right. I have to admit they put the foot scene in season 1. I haven't really brought it up since. It's kind of weird. I'm kind of glad though. Like, I thought that was really unnecessary. But we'll see. I don't need action constantly, but they banked this whole season on the start of this war, and we've only seen one battle this season. It feels weird to me, and I'm someone who prefers the smaller moments. It does feel weird, Matthew. I can't agree to that, right? Like, we saw that, like, a couple battles happened off screen, right? So you see, like, Cole's conquest, and, you know, you see the Battle of the Burning Mill. So, like, we don't see it, but we know it happened. So it's like, yes, it's still there. Like, it did happen, so it does feel like a war. But in terms of, like, our characters, we're not seeing a lot of them engaging in this kind of thing that they've built up where there's this whole war. It feels like this was like a second season of building it up to the war. Like, it didn't feel like the war actually started. It felt like a lot of people were just, I don't want to start the war. I don't want to go do this. I don't want to do that. I want to just mess around and sneak into King's Landing and things like that. So, yeah, I think that right now, the lack of character development and a lot of the main characters specifically is lacking. I think you add that with the plot feels kind of stagnant at times in season 2. It kind of leads to a very slow season at times. And I didn't feel that in the first half of the season. I didn't feel like the first half of the season was slow at all. I felt like the first season was really well paced. Second half of the season has not felt good. It's not felt good in terms of pacing. It's felt all over the place, but I don't know. Agreed, Violet. I mean, giving all of, like, Daemon's ability of leadership and becoming a better man because of his visions with Viserys and young Rhaenyra and Laena, all these people, it feels like that was wasted as of right now. And we're just going to have to see how episode 8 does it. Episode 8 could save it, maybe, but we'll just have to see. Hi, Robbie. How are you? House of the Dragon was the friends we made along the way. You know what? That's fair. That's fair. Ricky, you know what? If it wasn't for House of the Dragon, we might not have ever collabed. Maybe. I don't remember, Ricky, when we started collabing though. I don't, because our first collab was not anything to do with voice. It was not, or not voice Volta, but it wasn't anything to do with, I don't think, House of the Dragon though. So I don't remember what our first collab was. Yeah, that's true, DG. I mean, HBO, it's so weird because if the episode tonight is really bad, like most people are saying it is, I say most because I think most of the reviewers or people that have seen the leaks that I respect seem to say it's not very good. So if the episode is, bad tonight, I mean, where do you go with that? Because I thought that this was going to be an easy slam dunk. I thought season 2 was going to be easy, right? And it's been kind of a rocky road. I've already said, we're not looking at season or episode 8 yet. But just looking at from what we've gotten season 2 so far compared to season 1 is way better than season 2. It's not even close to me. Like, I think season 1 is a more coherent story that's trying to tell a specific story. Like, season 2 just doesn't feel like that. Season 2 feels incoherent, and that's weird because season 1 should have been so much harder to do than season 2. Season 1, you had to do all these time skips, introduce all these huge different characters, and it still felt better than season 2 has. So I don't know, it's weird. We'll see how that goes. Damon Blackfire II will be Black and Duncan Egg according to H Hot D writers logic. I mean, at this point, I don't really care. As long as performances are good. Like, for instance, Corlys, like, it's not lore accurate technically because the Velaryons are supposed to look directly like the Targaryens, and it kind of paints a hole in the whole Laenor Rhaenyra situation. It's like, yeah, how would anyone ever question that these aren't Laenors at all? Like, how would nobody, like, it will be a fact that they're not Laenors, right? Because they just come out being completely white. Like, so, but with all that being said, I love Corlys's actor. I wish we got more of the character of Corlys. I don't really mind that much, but we'll see. Hi, Jesus. How's it going? If this season had 10 episodes, do you think it would have been significantly better? No. I don't think the problem is the episodes. I think not episode count. I don't think that's the problem. The problem with the season overall has been inconsistency in writing and logic. Characters feel very stagnant. They don't really have much growth or development outside of like a couple, like Aegon, Aemond. I think Kristen Cole's not been bad in this season. I think he's had a pretty solid like development. But outside of like that, like there's not a lot of characters that you look at and you think about how are they different from the beginning of season 2 to the end of season 2. I think the character work has not been great. I think there's been a lot of issues there, but I don't know. It's aired at 4 a.m. where I live. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Ricky, who does our live streams, he is always up till God knows when. Basically no sleep those days. Before, I have not felt the high stakes. One should feel during a dragon civil war, which is mind-boggling. Like Ned Stark, we felt how high stakes everything is without dragons, but here not. Yeah, I agree. I do agree. Like, and part of that comes down to the characters from the book are different from the characters from the show. And so when you look at the characters of the show and you try to fit in how do their actions make sense with what happens in the dance. And I think the writing team really struggled with that this season. Because Rhaenyra, her actions don't make sense with the book Rhaenyra's actions. Like how she goes about the war, what she's doing early on. And so they had a bunch of conflicting things going on. It was, okay, Rhaenyra and Alicent, for the most part, shouldn't be main characters in Season 2, but they wanted to keep them there because they're the two main characters of Season 1. How do you then fit that in with a story that predominantly doesn't involve Alicent and Rhaenyra in this part of it? So they struggled with that, and so they had to invent things. They had to change how the characters work. So you have Rhaenyra, who's 7 episodes deep and is still like conflicted about going to war and things like that, which doesn't make any sense at all given what the events that have happened. You just have issues, right? Because then you see like Daemon, for instance, his whole arc seems to be slowed down. Like he's not doing what he does in the book at this time. And yeah, it just comes down to they changed the characters from the book, and so that makes it to where those characters don't really add up in terms of what actually happens. We didn't see all of Robb's battles, but what we did see felt more substantial in Game of Thrones. Maybe that's just me though, IDK. Yeah, well, it was different because in Game of Thrones, right, Robb is a main character. Like after Ned dies, Robb basically shoots up to being one of the main characters of the show. And so when you see him doing actions, right, you see him actually doing things. And whether that's bad, whether that's good, like he's doing things in the West. You know, he's winning battles here and he's doing all this stuff. And we don't see all of it, but we understand the significance of those actions. And, you know, this action leads to, you know, Theon and betraying him. And this action leads to the Karstarks abandoning him. That's more on Catelyn, but, and, you know, the Freys leaving him. We see that character in a war and trying to navigate how to run a war camp. And so with Rhaenyra and Alicent and, you know, a lot of those characters, we don't see any of that. We see two characters that are pretty much just like, we don't want to really do anything, right? We want to try and continue to do peace when it just doesn't make any sense to do so. I managed to avoid all spoilers, so please, yes, I am not talking about leaks for the episode at all. I know some of them. I don't know everything, right? This is a long episode. I saw kind of some major bullet points here and there, but I'm trying to not spoil any of those into the preview. I did that on Wednesday as well, so. But yes, Alicent claims cannibal. That sounds like an interesting plot point. I don't want Dragon Show to end. Yeah, I mean it's kind of weird because my channel, I've been posting almost at least 2 House of the Dragon videos, more borderline on like 3 for like the last 2 months. So it'll be weird going back to just Song of Ice and Fire content and not just House of the Dragon, but we'll see. You think next season we'll have 8 or 10? We actually had a talking point about this on last week's stream, I think. But I think it's going to stay at 8. I think, usually, and I think I don't remember if it was Ricky or the Advocate who was talking about this, but usually when you have 8 episodes, you don't go back to 10. Usually it's kind of how that stuff goes down. I think Daemon has been better this season, Jesse, as a character. But if you look at Daemon in season 1, he was more entertaining than Daemon season 2. So it's weird because Daemon's as a character has been better. Like there's actually a more exploration of the character. But what's actually happening in his plot, there isn't much going on. And that's like the opposite of season 1. So it's weird, right? Because there's pros and cons to both seasons with Daemon. But we're going to have to see how it ends, right? I think Daemon is a character that if he lands correctly in the finale, could be like A or S tier character for this season. But if he doesn't have a good ending in this season, well, he's probably like a C, D character. We'll have to see how that goes. Actually going to catch some sleep right now. See y'all later for the Ricky. Get your sleep in. And yeah. It's kind of weird how the show wants us to sympathize with Aemon and kind of redeem him for Luke's death, but then after Rook's Rest, he becomes full-on anime villain out of nowhere. See, I don't have that problem. I think it made sense, right? It's like, you look at Aemon, he was someone after Luke's death, right? He was someone that wasn't like a cruel or villainous like character yet. He had those demons, they were there, but he still had a piece of his humanity, right? He was kind of going to therapy more or less, and he still had a little bit of that left. And, when you see that breaking with Aegon, basically making a joke out of him and all these things, that's when that humanity left. And so I don't mind. I think the way they've done Aemon in the scenes, or this season's been pretty solid. Like, I would say he's been one of the better characters of the season in terms of a growth, but we'll see. Hi, Ashley. How are you? We need a film about King Stannis defeat. The Greyjoy Rebellion is low-key a very good, show, I think. You'd only need, 1 season to do it, maybe. Yeah, it's either going to be, if you did it, it would be 1 season, maybe 10 episodes, or, maybe, you could maybe stretch it to 2 seasons with 8 episodes if you want to really do, the build-up to it. But I would love that. Doing one of my favorite videos that I've done on this channel was the Greyjoy Rebellion. And so that's a really good idea. I'd love to see that actually be on screen. Gryffindor, fair enough, and I will see you later tonight. Can anyone explain to me why Rhaenyra has more smoke for innocents trying to help her cause than she does for the enemies who murdered her son and stole her throne? It doesn't make any sense, Ashley. It's just inconsistencies with a character. And it's not this idea that, oh, well, we as human beings are, very conflicted and we're always kind of hypocrites, right? That doesn't apply here because that doesn't logically add up to why she does certain things. She's willing to murder a bunch of peasants and things like that, but she's not willing to, actually avenge her family. She's not willing to put people to death, if they're bad, to her cause. Really weird. Rhaenyra, I've made a video on this, last week, or I guess this week technically, but Rhaenyra just is not a good character this season. I don't know what they could do at the end of season 2 to change my opinion on that. We'll have to see what happens, but I just think Rhaenyra is the biggest disappointment of the season. They wasted an entire season of build-up and setup with the character, and somehow she still had no development at all. I agree. And Chrissy, that all comes down to when you're looking at who are the 2 main characters. Aegon barely was developed in season 1. We saw him a little bit, and every time we saw him, he was just a bad dude. Nobody kind of liked Aegon in the first season. So when you have it where you have Aegon, who wasn't as developed as he probably needed to be in season 1 because of 10 episodes, they needed 12. Pretty obvious now that you look back on it. But Alicent was the clear main character of the Greens. And so how do you step down from that, right? Because I think if you're Ryan Connolly, you're the House of the Dragon team, maybe you're scared to, put aside Rhaenyra and putting aside Alicent. Because in reality, the main characters, for the Blacks and the Greens is like Daemon, Rhaenys, Corlys, and then eventually Jace. Like those are your main 4 for the Blacks in this season that should have been. And then for the Greens, it's like Aemond, Aegon, Otto for a little while, and Criston Cole. Those are like your main 4. So it is kind of interesting the way that they went about doing that. We're going to talk about it. I have a lot of videos, I think, planned based upon how this last episode goes for the coming weeks, because I think there's a lot of talking points looking at the way this season went about doing things and the way that they may go forward in season 3. Hi, Radical. How are you? Do you think the showrunners may course correct back onto the more book specific paths after this season with its detours? I don't know, Matthew. I've heard a lot of knowing information about what's going to happen in the episode and knowing what people have said publicly about the episode that have seen it. It seems they're going away from the book even more, which I don't necessarily hate with the show, because the show made characters that don't fit the book version of these stories, which is unfortunate. But it's going to be how they execute the changes. I've always said that. It's about how do they execute the changes, but I don't know. What Ryan Connell said made me mad. He said people wanted to see Alicent and Rhaenyra meet up, so that's why that episode 3 ending happened. I don't know who the hell told him that we wanted to see Rhaenyra and Alicent in episode 3. Nobody was saying that. I don't know who was saying that. Maybe casual people were saying that. If you thought it was a good idea to bring them back together, literally 5 episodes. 5 episodes. That's half a season. Half. That's how long they were gone. 5. Think about that. We don't see Theon in Game of Thrones for basically, or let's go book. Let's not say the show. The book, we don't see him for 2 books. And people were and it was fine. In the show, it's oh, we have TikTok brain. We need to see Rhaenyra and Alicent now, even though they just left. Stuff like that is just whack to me. I don't know. I see people saying the writing is Game of Thrones Season 8 bad, but I think that's a hot take. I think the problem with comparing anything to Game of Thrones Season 8 bad is Game of Thrones was built up for so long. It was something that was so good to so many people. It touched so many people's lives, this community, that it had more of an emotional weight to us, right? We cared way more about our characters in Game of Thrones than we do House of the Dragon currently. And so I don't really think it's possible to hit as bad as writings in terms of Game of Thrones Season 8 because of the impact it had on the entire world, the entire culture around the Game of Thrones community. I don't think it can reach that height, but Season 7, I've seen a lot of people comparing it to Season 7, which is not great either, so we'll see. We'll see. That's another thing, right? Chrissy, you shouldn't write to what people want. You should write to what actually makes sense with your characters and their motivations and what they want to do. What is their goals, right? So Daemon, for instance, leaving season 1, Daemon's goal was to go to Harrenhal and to build up an army and start messing up the Greens. Rhaenyra, well, we don't know exactly what her motivations are at the end of season 1 because, well, she just kind of gives us a look, which seems to mean war is upon us. I'm pissed off. We're going to go kill some people. That's the way it kind of felt. And so when you have the complete turnaround going into season 2, it just makes those things really weird. I think that's correct, Steffi. I think if they would have given Helena more of a character arc in this like season, it would have helped the Aemond character. It would have helped build up that character. I think that's a legit criticism. I think that is a good point. I've talked about this all season. I want more of Helena. Like, you can't just have her show up, do one-liners, and then disappear, and nobody questions on her. Nobody seems to really like interact with the character of Helena. She just seems like a just spout exposition type character, or make cool shots as people stand horrified, like Aemond. Like, it's just not that great. Are you more excited for Tumbleton or the Riverlands campaign next season? That's a tough one. I'd probably say Tumbleton, but I don't know. I honestly think it'll feel way too rushed if they do 8 episodes in season 3 and 4 and end it. I think 3 more seasons past season 2 can work if they stick to 8 episodes. Yeah, definitely possible, Radical. Sarah Hess was the one that wanted Rainey smashing. So yeah, I mean, Sarah Hess, no hate like to you, but it seems like no, don't take this personally, but like some of the writing choices that like Sarah Hess has publicly came out or has been said that she did were not good decisions, just in general. That's fair. I really like the design of Silverwing as a dragon. Like, I think it was a really good design for Silverwing. I still am not a huge fan of like the Ulf stuff with Silverwing, but you know. Would you be worried if they stretch it out to where the Battle of the Gullet happens? And that would be terrible, Radical. I mean, that just does not make sense. The Battle of the Gullet needs to happen like almost immediately. Like, the way I was predicting it is that the Battle of the Gullet should have happened in episode 1 of season 3 or episode 2. If they stretched it out that long, like, what is going to be happening in that time frame? That's just way too stretched out, Radical. Cannot wait for the Batman Part 2. The first Batman movie with Robert Pattinson? I don't think I said his last name right. But it was very good. Very good. Even though I'm still a Christian Bale Dark Knight trilogy, I love that trilogy to death. The best Batman. Can't convince me otherwise. Yeah, I don't know, Radical. It just felt like a really, really weird like circumstance of events with Reyna, Radical. I don't know. Blue is a nice color on you, Grease. Well, thank you. I don't usually wear blue, but I don't know. I'm more of a, like, I like my what do you call them? I'm not good with like, not a primary color, because primary color is like red, yellow, green, I think. Maybe it's blue. But I like wearing like black, gray, white. I don't know. I just think it goes better with like my hair and stuff, but we don't need to go into a fashion. Let's not go into the Grease Goblin fashion stuff. That's just that's a whole different thing. Baelor Breakspear would be worse king than, that's a hot take. That is a really hot take. I don't know about that one, Chief. Okay, regardless of how this season ends, we can all agree that most of the performances have been great. Aegon, a character most hated, is now pretty much the one person most people feel bad for. Yeah. When I give criticisms of this show, it's never on the actors, never on the performances. Those are always fantastic. Most of the time when I have criticism of House of the Dragon, it's based upon writing decisions. That's usually where the problems are. I agree, Robbie, though, on your take on the dragons. Maybe we'll get lucky and George R. R. Martin will release Winds of Winter. Don't see it happening, at least in the near future, but we'll see. Pretty surprised episode 8 won't have a significant... Yeah, it does not look that way. They didn't market it that way. Yeah, I am also surprised. I really thought maybe we weren't going to have like maybe the biggest battle, but I thought we were going to have at least something. Episode 8 and 7, we'll have to see kind of how they play out, but as a finale, like, this is what I'm going to be interested of. If we look at 7 and 8 and compare it, like, we haven't seen episode 8 yet, but if episode 8 isn't good, like how a lot of critics are saying it isn't, is it the worst, like outside of like maybe season 7 and season 8, the worst finish to a season? Like, that's an interesting point. Of all time in the Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. Like, that is a crazy thing to think about. It's definitely, like, I'm a big not fan of, or hater, I guess, of episode 7. So episode 8's got to be really good to balance it out. But, like, season 5, season 6, for all the hate we give those, had a pretty strong finish to the season. So this might be one of the worst finishes to a season ever. So we'll see how that goes. Radical, that's a fantastic point. Daemon's been gone longer from Rhaenyra than Alicent and Rhaenyra. Think about those words for a second. Like, process that. Daemon hasn't seen Rhaenyra more than Alicent and Rhaenyra. That's crazy. That is crazy. Helaena is perhaps my biggest letdown for the season. Yeah, I can't blame you on that one. I think my biggest letdowns are Rhaenyra, Rhaena, Helaena, and Baela. Specifically Baela. I feel like Baela is a character I wish we got more of. Like, they give so much focus to Rhaenyra and Alicent, and sometimes their episodes, like, some of the scenes that happen during those episodes don't matter. Like, they just don't need to be there. And, like, you have a character like Baela where, you know, the few times they actually give her speaking lines, she does really good with it. Like, one of the better scenes that I can recall from this season is her with Corlys. It lets the character act a little bit, lets them have some interesting dialogue. Like, I don't know. There's just been so many missed opportunities of this season. Radical. So I actually posted this on Twitter or X because I was just frustrated. I got tired of seeing it. But, like, people that think the show is going book Rhaenyra now, you do not know Rhaenyra. Like, okay, I can't say this because everybody has their interpretation of Rhaenyra, but we are not on the same wavelength. Like, Rhaenyra is completely different in the book. These characters are not comparable. Rhaenyra is my favorite character of Fire and Blood. And I can tell you right now, they are not even close to similar. There's no semblance of similarity between those two characters. At all. Like, they seem to be going with this, like, Rhaenyra is the Messiah or Jesus or something like that, and it's just like, where did this even come from? Like, this is so stupid. I don't know. I don't know. A good story is driven by the characters. The only good characters are season 1 Viserys and season 2 Aegon. Rhaenyra, Kristen, Daemon, and Alicent are utter dog shit characters. For the most part, I pretty much agree with that, Andrew. Like, think about what made some of the episodes in season 1 like really enjoyable. It wasn't because we had huge action moments, and yeah, huge action moments can be great if we have investment in our characters, but you have Viserys. I still think the best scene of the entire show is Viserys when he comes in to kind of basically save Rhaenyra. It is a powerful moment. That is a buildup of the entire season to that moment. That whole season builds that moment perfectly. And we are yet to really, like, have that kind of a moment in season 2. Like, Rook's Rest was great in terms of the way it looked and, you know, Rhaenys and Aegon and Aemond all going at it and all that. But, like, it didn't have, like, necessarily the emotional weight behind it. Things like, for instance, the Battle of the Blackwater had. And, like, that's a weird comparison because obviously we're going to care about Tyrion, like Davos and Sansa and all those characters more, but it's just to kind of paint that picture. Like, season 2 had some of those emotional moments. Like, I still think the best scene of season 1 was Rhaenyra and Jace in the first episode, you know, reacting to Luke's death and the emotion between the two characters, and it kind of basically builds off of season 1. It's a kind of a conclusion to season 1 and that plot line, but it felt earned. It felt like a powerful moment. It's still one of my favorite moments of the entire second season. Joey, mayhaps, I'm not really going to talk about leaks or anything like that, but mayhaps Alicent might not be on the best path, but Ashley, I wish we got more of the Velaryons, and I know we talk about this every single week, but, like, it almost makes me feel like the show writers just don't like the Velaryons. I don't know why. The Velaryons have some of the most interesting characters in this time period, and they're all underdeveloped. Every single one. Every single one is underdeveloped. Rhaenyra says she wants peace, but what is peace to her? Her on the throne or not? Would she be fine if Aemon lived? She'd get this peace because the Greens wouldn't just let her kill them. Like, yeah, that's what I mean by it. Like, there's no clear like definition of what is Rhaenyra's peace. I don't know. That's another thing, Jesse. They haven't built up the Triarchy plot at all. Like at all. It's just not been something there at all. Agree, Ghost. Again, anything with Helena has been pretty much underdeveloped the whole season. Yeah, I agree. The writing has definitely declined. Yeah, Chrissy, that's where I'm at, right? Like, they've screwed up the Rhaenyra character too much now that if she all of a sudden starts becoming like a Maegor the Cruel, Rhaenyra thing, like that's her name, right? She basically gets named after Maegor. It's just gonna feel weird. Where did it come from? Like, me and Ashley have had this conversation, I feel like, every single week. But how does Rhaenyra not snap, or she doesn't go into this crueler side of her when her son dies? She has a miscarriage. Her father dies in a very suspicious manner that even Daemon thinks was poison. She then has the whole public turned against her because they think she did blood and cheese. Her husband basically leaves her, more or less. She feels completely boxed in. Like, she can't do anything. Like, how did... I just don't... Like you can't then have these events that feel like they pale in comparison to the things Rhaenyra has gone through be the thing that cracks her. It's just weird. It just is weird to me. Do you think Millie Alcock version of Rhaenyra was the closest to books we will get? Yeah. I think Millie Alcock's Rhaenyra was more or less how Rhaenyra was, it seemed to be in Fire and Blood early on, right? Because Millie portrays the Rhaenyra when she was the realm's delight. Like, everybody seemed to like her. She was this person that didn't fit into being like this traditional woman, right? She's kind of like Arya in a lot of ways. There's a lot of similarities between the two characters. And it kind of felt that way. Like it felt that way. And maybe I didn't agree with some of the things they maybe did with the early part of season 1, but it's the closest we've been to what Rhaenyra truly is. And even in like season 1, like the character of Rhaenyra, like when we went to Emma Darcy and she took over, or they took over, the character still didn't really feel like Rhaenyra, because as the character aged, they should have started to become a bit more on the emotional side and doing some cruel things. That never happened. And so season 1, it kind of fundamentally kind of broke the character of Rhaenyra as we kept going, and we still didn't evolve the character. What if Rhaena gets to Sheepstealer and Nettles is there already? I would love that to happen, Radical, but it's just not going to happen. Is Kano slipping into D&D territory? I mean, based off the leaks and kind of the things that are coming out about the episode, it feels like it. It feels like it. And that's why I was someone that was very cautious when people threw around the term that Condal was better than D&D, because Condal was yet to have a season that was like truly a great season. Like, season 1 was good. Season 1 was good. It's like for me, it's like an 8 out of 10. Like, it's a good season. This season is like a 7 maybe for me right now. Like, based upon how this finale does, will either make it like lower than that or higher. So we'll see. But right now, I would say cautiously, yes. I have to say they're probably slipping into D&D territory. Winds of Winter is coming out in 20... I will be 32 years old if that's... Oh my god. Hopefully not. Andrew, hopefully not. Yeah, Dream of the Spring I don't think is happening, but Winds I think definitely will come out. Can't believe the episode leaked yet again. I don't think it's that surprising, though. I mean, like, even season 8, like, all those episodes were leaked before they came out. All of them. Like, I knew what happened in the finale of, like, Game of Thrones before it came out. I just had to see, like, when I watched it, I just had to, like, I was in denial as to that was actually what happened in it, but I'm excited for the finale, but a bit nervous. I'm glad you're excited. I am not. I feel like I am like a guest going to the Red Wedding. I know the Red Wedding's happening, but I can't stop it. That's how I feel. Like, that's how I feel right now. I feel like I'm like already just preparing for the worst. I want to go into it open-minded, but I don't know. It's hard when you have some information that I have, but we'll see. Agreed, Ashley. Maybe Steffi, but like at that point, it just feels too late. It feels too late to go down that route. Even if season 2 ends badly, nothing can be worse. No, it's not going to be worse than season 8. There's no shot it'll be worse than season 8. We had way more attachment to characters like Cersei, Tyrion, Daenerys, Jon. We had way more attachment to those characters, and they were more developed than the characters in House of the Dragon. So it just can't comparatively be as bad as that. But can it still be really bad? Yeah, it can. That's very damaging. Very damaging if you end out season 2 in a really bad way. That hurts a lot. Also, hi Gregory, how are you? Hope work is going great. Hope you're having a good dinner and all that. But yeah. I jabbed Ricky about his faith in Condal. I mean, again, I was in I wasn't as confident as Ricky was. Ricky was, I think, like really confident this season was going to be great. I was still pretty I was confident, like, because I thought it would be good, because I thought the season 2 source material would be a cakewalk for them, and it just was not. They did not handle most of it well. I'd say they handled about maybe like 50, like 3 of the episodes of the 7 we've watched have been good. 4 of them have been either questionable in certain things, or I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I liked episode 1 too, but like it should have been much, much better. Please end the Daemon plot well enough that I have something to look forward to in season 3. Yeah, Kenshin, I think it's like everybody's kind of holding their breath. Like, Daemon's plot has to end strongly, and if it doesn't, this season to me feels like a waste of time. That's where I'm at right now, because I think the Rhaenyra arc has been pretty, like, the Black Camp in general, outside of like Jace at times, has been pretty poor. The Green Camp has been pretty entertaining, I think, for most of the season. There's just been some like really weird things here and there, but by far to me, the Daemon stuff has been the best. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Hi Fizzle, how are you? I still haven't watched Game of Thrones finale episode. You shouldn't, Ashley. It's not good. Not even, yeah. I don't even know what to tell you. Are you worried about the other spinoffs if they mess up more? Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm not like Dunk and Egg, right? I'm not worried about it that much. Like, there's like an uneasy feeling. Like, there's a little bit of it there, be based upon where House of the Dragon seems to be going. But like, that's my thing with Dunk and Egg, right? Is if it comes out next year and Dunk and Egg is not good, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you can't get Dunk and Egg right, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's... So we'll see. You can hear the rains of Castamere. You know bad things are coming. Yeah, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. I feel like this episode's probably not going to be good. There's going to be a real... We're going to see some things tonight. If this episode's bad, I think I'm going to have a mental breakdown tonight, but we'll see what happens. I mean, stick tuned for that. If the episode's bad, I probably am going to go ballistic on some people. Like, I'm going to start calling for heads and things like that, but we'll see. Season 2 is like a 5. Oh boy, that is a tough rating. I feel like I've been tough. I feel like I've been tough on the season, but that's a tough one. We should have... Ooh, that'd be really cool. Dunk and Egg as a video game, that is a fantastic idea. Maybe if, Dunk and Egg is a good show, maybe they'll do like a video game of it. Also, thank you for coming a member of Violet. Appreciate you. I don't know if there is a member alert, but I appreciate you. Appreciate you as always. Thank you for being a good old mod. Could House of Dragon change character deaths to where they die in other places? Then yeah, I think based upon the way they've handled the lore Radical. Yeah, they could do a lot of different things. I think the weird thing about this season is I think this was the season to really start to expand the world, and we didn't, right? It feels just like season 1. You have 2 plots that are in King's Landing and Dragonstone, and then you have 1 in the Riverlands. That's it. They just didn't really expand the world. Also, mods for mods in the chat, because I haven't really been able to keep up with chat that much. If you do see somebody like actually like blatantly leak something, please like remove the message and then like maybe give them a warning or something. But yeah. Should we see a Daron plotline in season 3? We should. If we don't, I don't know what they're doing. If the fact that Daron is not in season 2 to me, I think is a massive miss. Like just a massive miss. But if we don't see season 3, I mean, I don't even know who's making decisions at HBO or the House of Dragon team, but they're not thinking. Yeah, I mean, I think outside, like once you get past episode 4, rest of the so far it's felt like 3 episodes of filler. That's kind of how it's felt. Laird has been solid this season. I agree. Yes, Fizzle. It seems like they're doing like an alternating thing where they're gonna have Dunk and Egg one season, House of the Dragon the other type situation. So Steffi, Dunk and Egg, from what we have in Dunk and Egg, it basically reads like a Catelyn POV. Like imagine you have a Catelyn POV. That's basically what it is. It's just through Dunk more or less the whole time. So it's not like a complete story. Like there is like, we know what the end point of their story is and we know some of the opening stuff, but like George has not finished those novellas. So once you get past that source material, you just kind of make up your own like stories, I guess. But we'll see. Reinspire comes out later this month. I'm actually going to watch it. Yeah, Jesse, I'm going to watch it as well. I want to do some like, I want to do some like reviews like we did last time with it, just to, just for some extra content to do on the side. But that'll be on the second channel. I don't want to mess around and put Lord of the Rings content on this channel. It'll maybe mess up the algorithm, but if you do want to see me covering Rings of Power, I will cover it on the second channel. I have very low expectations, but we'll see. Will you go fire and blood mode if this episode? Yes. This is by far one of my favorite time periods outside of the main story. I love a lot of the characters in this story. Daemon and Rhaenyra, we haven't gotten to them in the top 100 characters, but they're very high in it. So it's like characters like Alicent and Aemon and all these characters. I love a lot of these characters in the way I've interpreted them from Fire and Blood. They're one of the reasons I really like Fire and Blood that whole time period. If they fuck them up, like if they do damage in this episode that like makes the characters where they cannot be repaired, there's no semblance of what the character was in this season, I will have a lot of I will have a lot of serious criticisms with this show and the way it's going. I will not stop watching House of the Dragon. I'll still cover it, Radical, but it's like you'll be able like to tell. Like if I'm not enjoying it, I won't have the same passion for it. Like I won't like do like scene by scene analysis stuff. Like I will just come on and we'll just talk about it like the day after. But yeah.
The Lannisters send their regards.
Thank you for the super chat, Chrissy. I appreciate you. What'd you say? Here's some good luck money for the finale. Well, thank you, Chrissy. We'll have to get through it together. We'll see. It's not bad yet. We don't know yet. It could be good, maybe. But we'll see. Is there no hope for Mushroom? I don't know. We may see him like at some. I doubt it, based upon he hasn't been there. But I mean. But yeah, a lot of people like put it this way. For people that haven't read Dunk and Egg or don't know a lot about it, a lot of people have it as the best written content in A Song of Ice and Fire. Ricky, for instance, voice of Old Town, he has it as his best written book of the entire series. I think it's very well, or not well, that didn't sound right. It's really, I think, written pretty good. I still think the first book has the best overall writing from chapter to chapter, but I definitely think it's definitely up there. Alicent reveals that she is Mushroom's mom. Oh boy, that'd be interesting. Violet, well, you got to get past the Greyjoys. You got to get past the Greyjoys. It could be phrase. People. There's a movement to change it to the phrase. So I don't know. I think missing Maelor in season 2 is a miss. We are moving so slowly. I don't know how we can cut characters. I agree, Fizzle. I agree. I think the Greyjoy plot would be awesome to have as well, Jesse. I think expanding the world is never a bad thing, especially in these shows where you're trying to stretch it out to make more money, have more seasons. Why not do some of these interesting characters and plots that you could do? Who are your guys' favorite Game of Thrones tubers besides the Grease Goblin? Well, I guess I'll put my 2 cents in there. Of course, I like the people I work with, right? So the only people I've worked with is Ricky, Voice of Old Town, and then also The Advocate. I like both of them. They do some great content. I think for me the obvious ones, In Deep Geek, fantastic YouTuber. I actually had the pleasure of at least communicating with him on social media, which was really cool, given that he was a lot of the inspiration of how I wanted to do this channel, because he doesn't do it much anymore, but I guess on his live streams he does, but a lot of the inspiration for how I wanted to do my content was inspired from him, so I really appreciate him in this space. Alt Shift X, of course, one of the goats, of course. Red Team Review, Preston Jacobs, some of the goats, some of the people that are foundations of the community. Also, I got to back Preston Jacobs because he was one of the only other YouTubers that didn't like episode 7. Shout out to my boy Preston. Yeah. Duncan Egg will feel like the world's a bit smaller than House of Dragon and Game of Thrones, with Ashford Meadow being the only location we see. Yeah, it's more a condensed story. It's a more traditional story. It's going to feel a lot like Mando in terms of the dynamic, between Grogu and Mando, but it'll feel like A Song of Ice and Fire. It'll feel darker. It'll feel like it has more complexity to it. Is hopefully how it should feel. Check out your streams in season 3 since we'll have lots to talk about if they keep making. Yeah, I mean, the way I'll look at it, right, is if season 2 ends out really badly, it really takes me out of the show. I'll still cover season 3, but it won't be like I'll be uploading a ton of videos on House of the Dragon and be talking about it with so much passion. It'll be more from okay, why are they messing things up? What are they doing? I don't know. Well, we'll see. I know Ricky has told me that he probably won't make content on House of the Dragon season 3 moving forward. He's kind of done with it, so we'll see how that goes. I think though, me and him will probably still be doing content for Duncan Egg together, but we'll see. Quinn's a good one as well. Been making some quality content. A video that I wanted to make that he kind of beat me to the punch was talking about disability. I kind of mentioned it a bit when I did my Game of Thrones review, but I think George R. R. Martin really writes disability in a fascinating way. That's very applicable to our own world and how we look at that. Was the red sewing underwhelming for you? Yeah, it was. The only thing that to me of the major events that haven't been underwhelming to me of this season has been the Cargill twins, their battle, and then the Battle of Rook's Rest. Every other big moment that you can think of in this season has been underwhelming to me. I forgot that I did this on Top Chat, so I might have been missing people's chats, but I can only do so much. That's all I gotta say. Gladius is a pretty good one. I agree. He actually, I think he's one of the biggest YouTubers that's actually looked at my content. He did it on stream, which I thought was really cool. He looked at one of my better videos, so at least that's the thing. He looked at when I did a Viserys character analysis, which I really enjoyed doing. Yeah, and I think it's going to be kind of reversed, right? In a lot of the streams, I've been kind of the more passionate one about House of the Dragon because I like this. I love this world, and I want to see it done justice because it's never going to be done again. That's the thing that's so hard to think about if you're a book reader. We are never going to see, more than likely, the Dance of the Dragons ever be done again in terms of a live action show. And so when you see moments like Blood and Cheese and they're not done as good as they can be, you realize, oh shit, we're never going to see that again. That's never going to happen again. Maybe years and years and years and years down the road, it's just not going to happen again. So I don't know, but I think it's going to be the opposite because I'm not as attached to Dunk and Egg as he is. I like Dunk and Egg. I think it's great piece of content. I recommend it to everybody, but it's not my favorite thing. It's the book that I'd read last. It was, after I'd already gone through all the rest of the history books, Dunk and Egg is the one I read last. And so I'm not as attached to it, but I do definitely like it. I hope you enjoy the premiere, Weston, as well. And yeah, I think a lot of great names in chat being discussed. There's a lot of good YouTubers. And, one thing I think that's a shame is like how many YouTubers have kind of gone out of the Song of Ice and Fire community because Winds of Winter not coming out. And after Game of Thrones, there was a very big, like, empty space, right? It's like, that's the thing that I think is so interesting that I've seen people like talk to me about on streamers specifically. Is like, how do you continue to do this content for so long? Like, eventually you run out of things to talk about. Eventually you can't do the first Blackfire Rebellion anymore. You can't talk about it because you talk about it so much. Eventually you can't talk about Winds of Winter because you've talked about it for so long. Like, how do you eventually, and all these new shows really helps like creators because you have more talking points. There's more content you can make, but it's just, it's unfortunate. Like people like Order of the Green Hand. I didn't agree with a lot of the things that they did on their channel, but they had made quality content. A lot of people like them. They brought people to the space. Like it's really sad to see communities and people like that, not be in the community anymore. Glidus is probably the best YouTuber, but he's not much, or he's too much of a hot deglazer. That's the one thing. I don't really look at a lot of people, like, unless I see them like post something on social media, not YouTube. Like, I'll just see like maybe their little thoughts of it. I don't, for the most part, watch people's opinions of the show because I don't want those to like influence the way I think about it. Because I think so many people are influenced based upon what reviewers say and how people should feel about the episode. So, I don't know. I agree. Rings of Power Season 1 is some of the worst content I have ever watched in my life. And I'm not talking about source material. I'm talking about just directly in terms of a show's own continuity, its own storytelling, not because it's not, and it has nothing to do with Tolkien. Let's just get that out there. It is single-handedly, for the budget it had, for the talent in terms of like big names like they kind of had, like for acting, it is one of the worst pieces of content I have ever seen. But yeah. I liked your takedown of N+A. Well, I'm very passionate about that. I don't like the Ashara theory. I don't like its implications in the story. I don't like the logic of how you get to that conclusion, but that's for another time. We could talk about Ashara stuff all the time. We'll see. But I want to say thank you guys for everybody that stopped in. We'll probably be live in like another 2 hours, so we'll be back on here again. Hopefully things run more smoothly. As like, for instance, last time Ricky's camera for some reason gave out within the first like 2 seconds. Hopefully, things get better. But yeah. Also, thank you, Weston. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the kind words. And I will continue. Doesn't matter how the episode goes tonight. We'll continue with my stuff. My stuff is not tied to House of the Dragon. It never has been. House of the Dragons isn't its own thing. But yeah, I'm excited to start the Clash, or about to say Clash of, can't speak. I was about to say Clash of Clans, but we're going to be doing Clash of Kings reread starting in September. Got through the first chapter today. Got all my notes done. It's a long one, but I will see you guys all after the episode. And thank you for the new member and super chats. Appreciate you.